Hello, everyone. We live in an age of astonishing technological achievement. We can edit genes, we can speak instantly across continents, we can model entire climates on supercomputers, and yet we still cannot eliminate war. Why? After two world wars, after the founding of the United Nations, after globalization supposedly tied our economies together, why do major wars still erupt? Tonight in this video, I want to suggest something unsettling but clarifying. Wars persist not because leaders are irrational, nor because humanity has failed to morally evolve, but because of the structure of the international system itself. To understand this, we need to step back from headlines and examine the deep architecture of global politics. Right. Now, in part one, I want to talk about the world has no referee. Imagine a city with no police, no courts, and no higher authority. Every household is responsible for its own protection. Even if your neighbor is peaceful, you must still lock your doors. This political scientists argue is what the international system looks like. Unlike domestic politics, where governments enforce rules, the global system is anarchic, not chaotic, but lacking a central authority. This foundational insight was articulated most systematically by Kenneth Walls in his structural realist theory. Rawls argued that war is not primarily caused by evil leaders or flawed human nature. Instead, it is caused by the structure of anarchy itself. So, in a world without a global government, states cannot rely on others for survival. They must prioritize security. They must assume worst case scenarios. Even peaceful states must prepare for war because survival is not guaranteed. And that logic alone generates tension. Now, in this part two, I want to talk about um, security dilemma. So, here is how it looks. State A increases military capability to feel safer. State B interprets this as a threat, and State B increases its military in response. State A now feels less safe than before. No one intended war. But both sides are now more armed and more suspicious. This spiral is not driven by hatred, it is driven by uncertainty. So, John Mearsheimer, a leading offensive realist, takes this logic even further. He argues that because states can never be sure of others' intentions, the safest strategy is to maximize power whenever possible. So, in other words, in an anarchic world, caution often looks like aggression, and aggression sometimes looks like survival. Interesting, right? Now, here in part three, I want to talk on realism versus liberalism. Can cooperation prevent war? Now, not all scholars agree with this pessimistic view. Liberal internationalists argue that war is not inevitable. Why? And they point to economic interdependence, international institutions, democratic governance, norms of cooperation. The idea is simple. Countries that trade together are less likely to fight. Countries and institutions talk instead of should. Democracies rarely fight each other. After 1945, institutions like the European Union seem to confirm this theory. Former rivals integrated economically and politically, reducing incentives for war. And yet, economic interdependence has not eliminated conflict. Institutions have not prevented invasions. Democracy has not become universal. Why? Because liberal tools operate within the same anarchic structure realism describes. Institutions can reduce mistrust, but they cannot eliminate it. And trade can raise the cost of war, but it cannot remove strategic rivalry. When security feels threatened, states may sacrifice prosperity for protection. Now, in part number 4, I will be focusing on power transitions, the dangerous moments. Well, I guess we all know one of the most dangerous times in global politics is when power shifts. When a rising power challenges a dominant one, tension intensifies. And political scientists call this power transition theory. And the logic is stark. The dominant state fears decline. The rising state demands greater influence. Both suspect the other's intentions. And history shows that many major wars occur during such transitions. That the anxiety is not just about territory, it's about status, rules, and control of the international order. War becomes more likely not because either side seeks destruction, but because both seek security and influence in a shifting hierarchy. Well, stability, ironically, often exists when power is clearly distributed. Danger increases when the balance becomes uncertain. Now, in part 5, let me focus on resource competition, material stakes. So beyond structure and power, wars also emerge from material competition, like access to oil, water, rare earth minerals, strategic trade routes. Resources are not just economic assets, they are security assets. When critical resources are concentrated geographically, competition intensifies. Add climate change to the equation, droughts, food security, migration pressures, and the likelihood of instability grows. Resource stress amplifies existing rivalries. It rarely causes war alone, but it makes disputes harder to resolve peacefully. Now, in part number 6, what is the miscalculation of the human factor? And structural theories, right? Several structural theories explains why war is possible. But wars often start because of the miscalculation. So leaders, they overestimate their strength and underestimate their opponent's resolve. Assume conflicts will be short. Believe escalation can be controlled. War is often entered War is often entered with so much confidence and prolonged by misjudgment. Even in a rational system, imperfect information creates tragedy. So why do wars still happen? Because The international system is anarchic. Security is never guaranteed. Power shifts create fear. Resources remain unevenly distributed. Human leaders operate under uncertainty. War persists not because humanity has learned nothing, but because the structural conditions that generate insecurity, right, that insecurity have not disappeared across the world. We have built institutions, we have increased trade, we have developed norms, but we have not created a global sovereign authority capable of enforcing peace universally. So is war inevitable? Realists would say war is always possible. Liberals would say war can be produced through cooperation, and constructivists would add ideas and identities matter. We can change how states perceive each other. Well, I don't know. The truth may lie somewhere in between. The 21st century has not abolished war, but it has changed its course. Nuclear weapons raise the stakes dramatically. Global media increases accountability. Economic interdependence amplifies consequences. The question is not whether war is possible. The question is, can we manage rivalry without letting it escalate into violence? So when we read about conflict today, it is tempting to reduce it to personalities, morality, or single events. But structural forces operate beneath their surface. Understanding realism, liberalism, security, dilemmas, and power transitions does not make war acceptable. It makes it intelligible. And when we understand the system, we can better design policies to mitigate its dangers. Confidence-building measures, arms control agreements, transparent communication channels, institutional engagement, economic diversification. Peace is not the natural state of the international system. It is an achievement, fragile, negotiated, and constantly maintained. If war still happened in the 21st century, it is simply not because we have failed to progress. It is because progress must operate within an anarchic world. And the deeper we understand that world, the better chance we of preventing the next conflict before it begins. So that's all for my short lecture for tonight's class. I don't know. I hope you get something out of this video. And have a lovely and blessed night to all of you. Goodbye.